16-year-old nobody from Japan just did what no teenager ever has. He ran 100 meters in 10.00 seconds, faster than Bolt at his age. A new world under 18 record. But how did this happen? This wasn't a photo finish. His margin over the runner-up was nearly 0.3 of a second, a massive gap in sprinting terms, especially in a final of this caliber. Shimizu's 10.00 broke the previous under 18 record, 10.06, held by American Christian Miller and Thailand's Purapol Boonson since 2023. He didn't just beat it slightly, he smashed it by 0.06 of a second. That may sound small, but in sprinting, it's a huge difference. Even more impressive, his time surpassed what Usain Bolt had ever run as a 20-year-old. Bolt hadn't broken 10.00 at that age. His lifetime best at 20 was 10.03. As of now, Bolt still holds the senior world record of 9.58, but for teen standards, Shimizu is rewriting comparisons. He is faster than Bolt at the same life stage. That's rare air. To put that into context, very few athletes ever dip into the 10.00 range, even at the peak of their careers. For a high school student to do it, it's borderline unbelievable. This is the kind of performance that shifts paradigms and forces coaches, analysts, and athletes around the world to take notice. What exactly is happening in Japan's sprinting system that allowed this teenager to drop such a world-class time? Before this, no Japanese high schooler had managed that kind of speed. Shimizu also erased a 12-year-old national high school record of 10.01, previously held by Yoshihide Kiryu. Today, his mark places him tied for 5th on Japan's all-time list, even alongside seasoned pros and Olympians. Only elite names like Abdul Hakim Sani Brown and Yoshihide Kiryu are faster. This one race elevated him from unknown to national sprinting elite overnight. Shimizu wasn't even on many radars before this breakout. Unlike other teen prodigies who gain early media attention, he developed in relative quiet. His previous best was a 10.19, impressive but not record-breaking, so how did he make such a leap? Sorato Shimizu hails from Ishikawa Prefecture in Japan and attends a school known for athletic excellence. Reports say he had run a 10.37 a year earlier and then improved to 10.19 in early July, so this leap to 10.00 built fast. Clearly, he's been on a steep upward trajectory for months. He had ambition. Shimizu later said, "I was determined to run under 10 seconds heading into the final." When his time flashed up, he was ecstatic, praising the record and expressing a desire to compete internationally. It wasn't just about speed, it was about control, posture, and power distribution. Analysts pointed out his flawless acceleration phase and clean mechanics through 60 meters. That's rare in teenagers, where raw speed often overshadows technique, but Shimizu combined both, and that's what separates sprinters from champions. Shimizu isn't alone. Teen sprinters worldwide are racing into new territory. In Australia, a fellow 16-year-old named Gout has captured attention for breaking a long-standing national 200-meter record with a 20.02 run. His best in the 100 meters is around 10.17, though. It falls short of Shimizu.
Nobody does. Maybe Bolt did back then, but Gout wouldn't be, but he's holding his form, and as the others slow, as they tire, so he eases past them. It's a personal best for Gout, 20.02. We're just checking what the wind was doing that. Zero wind, still air there, and Gout has taken it to Menya and said, anything you've got, boy, I've got more.
In the US, other teenagers are clipping 10.3 and under in high school settings, but many of those marks aren't eligible as official world record times due to technical or sanction rules, something Shimizu's team met. It marks a broader shift. Sprinting is no longer dominated by Jamaica, and the US young talents in Asia, Oceania, and Europe are emerging fast. Many juniors peak early and never make the leap into top senior competition. But Shimizu's 10 o'clock does more than shock. It qualifies him for the World Athletics Championships this September in Tokyo. That makes him possibly the youngest ever to attempt the 100 meters at Worlds, just 16 years and about 218 days if selected. But selection isn't guaranteed. He didn't compete at Japan's national championships, which may factor into official team picks. Still, insiders believe his time alone might be too hard to ignore. If you're running the exact entry standard and doing it as a teenager, how do selectors leave that kind of promise behind? The physical and mental leap from junior to senior can be brutal, but if he stays healthy, keeps building, and maintains form, this performance suggests he could compete at the top level before many athletes even reach their peak. What makes this even more curious is how Japan's training methods have evolved. There's a growing emphasis on biomechanics, individualized training plans, and data-driven recovery routines. Combine that with a disciplined culture and a surge in local competition, and you have a breeding ground for young talent. Bolt's early focus was on the 200 meters. He only turned serious about 100 meters later. At 20, Bolt ran 10.03. Shimizu at 16 ran faster. That doesn't mean he'll beat Bolt's world record, but he's clearly operating under different biological and training norms. Sorato Shimizu said, "I'm happy to have set a high school record. I'd like to get a taste of the World Championships if I can make it." This comparison shows how sprinting has evolved. Younger athletes now benefit from better coaching, conditioning, diet, and gear, including super spike shoes and scientific regimens. And there's the mental side too. Shimizu shows maturity well beyond his years. He handles interviews with poise and keeps a calm demeanor on the track. You don't see nervous glances or overexcitement, just quiet confidence. That mindset is what separates good athletes from great ones. Shimizu qualifies for Tokyo Worlds by time alone, meeting the 10:00 entry standard. If selected, he may become the youngest ever male to contest the 100 meters at a senior world championship. Looking beyond that, there's Gout in Australia already bubbling in sprinting circles. A future showdown could happen in relay pools or at Tokyo if Gout competes there, or later at global meets. Also on the rise, Japan's national relay squads, led by athletes like Hiroki Yanagita and Naoki Nishioka, are picking up pace with consistent tennis performances and championship medals. They may be ready to bring Shimizu into the fold soon. Some even speculate that Shimizu could be a future face of Japan's Olympic squad. With Paris 2024 around the corner and Los Angeles 2028 after that, there's a real possibility he could become the youngest sprinter on Japan's Olympic team in decades. Sorato Shimizu didn't just run 10.00 seconds. He rewrote youth sprinting history at 16, crushed previous records by a wide margin, and entered Japan's all-time top 5 list instantly. He beat Bolt's age 20 best. He earned entry to the World Championships and maybe a spot on Japan's 4x100 relay squad. He stood toe-to-toe with rising stars like Gout and showed the rest of the track world what true youth dominance looks like. Shimizu is more than a flash in the pan. His moment in Hiroshima could be the start of something seismic, not just for Japan, but for global sprinting. Will he break 9.90 in years ahead? Can he become a world final contender in Tokyo or Paris? Only time will tell, but one thing is clear. The sprinting future just got a lot more interesting. If you were amazed by Shimizu's speed and want to see how this young sprinter's journey unfolds, make sure you hit that subscribe button, share this with a friend who needs to know about the future of sprinting, and drop a comment below. How fast do you think Shimizu can go next? Saturday, July 26, 2025. Hot Staff Field in Hiroshima, Japan. The final of the boys' 100-meter sprint at the Japan Inter-High School Championships was about to unfold. Nobody expected what happened next. Sorato Shimizu exploded from the blocks. The 16-year-old from Seiryo High School in Ishikawa Prefecture crossed the finish line in exactly 10.00 seconds, not 10.01, not 9.99. A perfect round 10.00 that sent shockwaves through the global athletics community. The timing screen flashed the numbers. Shimizu jumped for joy, arms outstretched in celebration. He had just become the fastest under-18 athlete in human history. The previous world record of 10.06 seconds, jointly held by American Christian Miller and Thai sprinter Purapal Boonson, had been obliterated by 0.06 of a second. Racing with a legal tailwind of 1.7 meters per second, Shimizu dominated the field completely. The second-place finisher clocked 10.27 seconds, nearly 0.3 behind the new world record holder. The 10-second time was shocking even to me, but I'm happy I was able to achieve it, Shimizu told NHK after his historic run. Winning was my goal, so I focused on running my own race without hesitation. Shimizu's performance didn't just break one record, it shattered multiple barriers simultaneously. The Japanese high school record of 10.01 seconds, set by Yoshihide Kiryu in 2013, had stood for 12 years. Kiryu later became a 4x100 relay silver medalist at the 2016 Rio Olympics, making his record particularly significant in Japanese athletics history. But Shimizu didn't just break it, he demolished it. His 10th flat made him the joint 5th fastest Japanese sprinter of all time, across all age groups. This 16-year-old high school student now ranks among the elite Japanese sprinters in history. Miller had set his 10.06 record at the USA U20 Championships in July 2023. Bunsen matched that time nearly 3 months later at the Asian Games in September 2023. Both were 17 when they achieved their marks. Shimizu, at just 16, had left both records in ruins. The comparisons to Usain Bolt started immediately, and for good reason. Shimizu's 10.00 seconds beats any time Bolt recorded until age 20. The Jamaican legend's best as a 20-year-old was 10.03 seconds, achieved when he was focusing primarily on the 200-meter distance due to his traditionally slower starts. Bolt preferred the 200 meters at that stage of his career because the extra distance gave him time to utilize his trademark acceleration. His slower starts made the shorter sprint more challenging initially. The fact that a 16-year-old Japanese sprinter had now run faster than young Bolt was almost incomprehensible. The current world record still belongs to Bolt. His legendary 9.58 seconds from the 2009 World Championships in Berlin remains untouchable. But Shimizu's achievement at such a young age suggested something extraordinary was brewing in Japanese athletics. 3 weeks earlier, Shimizu had run 10.19 seconds at the Japanese National Championships on July 4th. His progression timeline reveals the meteoric nature of his rise. At the 2024 Japan Inter-High School Championships in Fukuoka, he had clocked 10.37 seconds. That improvement from 10.37 to 10.00 in just over a year represents one of the most dramatic progressions in sprinting history. Even more remarkably, Shimizu had missed the final at Nationals with a time of 10.25 seconds, coming within 1/100th of a second of advancing. From that near miss to world record holder in less than a month showcased the explosive nature of his development. From the start, I was able to connect to my signature second acceleration and execute the movements I couldn't do in the preliminaries, so that was good, Shimizu explained, revealing the technical sophistication behind his breakthrough performance. Australian sprinting sensation Gout suddenly had serious competition. The 17-year-old Queensland sprinter had been the darling of athletics, already competing in Diamond League meets and drawing comparisons to Bolt for his finishing kick. Gout's legal personal best stands at 10.17 seconds. He has broken the 10-second barrier twice, but both performances were wind-assisted and therefore unofficial. Both sub-10 runs happened on the same night at the Australian National Championships in Perth, creating massive excitement that was ultimately tempered by the wind readings. Peter Ball, Australia's 800-meter champion, had claimed Gout could eventually eclipse Bolt's achievements. The Queensland teenager had just recorded a national record of 20.02 seconds in the 200 meters at the Golden Spike meet in Ostrava, chasing down Rainier Mina in spectacular fashion. Commentator Tim Hutchings compared Gout's finishing ability to Bolt himself. He said, "The strongest part of his race is always the last 50 meters. He holds his form so well, it's an optical illusion. It looks like he is accelerating, but he is not. Nobody does. Maybe Bolt did back then, but Gout wouldn't be. He is holding his form. As the others slow, they tire, he eases past them." But Shimizu's 10.00 flat had suddenly shifted the dynamics. The 2032 Brisbane Olympics would see both athletes in their prime, setting up what could become one of athletics' great rivalries. Japan has long excelled as a collective sprinting force. The country's 4x100-meter relay teams have captured multiple Olympic and World Championship medals, beginning with their historic silver at the 2008 Beijing Games. At the 2024 Paris Olympics, Japan finished 5th in the relay. But the search for an individual Japanese sprint star had proven frustrating. Many believed Abdul Hakim Sani Brown would fill that role. Born to a Japanese mother and Ghanaian father, Brown had electrified the athletics world with double gold in the 100 and 200 meters at the 2015 World U18 Championships in Cali. Brown made history at the 2022 World Championships in Eugene as the first Japanese athlete to qualify for the 100-meter final, where he finished 7th. At 26, however, his progression has stalled. His personal best of 9.96 seconds, achieved during the Paris Olympic semifinals, wasn't enough to reach the final. Brown's struggles this season have been particularly concerning. His best time in 2025 stands at just 10.31 seconds, making him terrible by his own standards and raising questions about Japan's individual sprint prospects. Shimizu's emergence changes everything. Born on February 8, 2009, this teenager represents Japan's best hope for individual sprint glory on the global stage. Shimizu's 10th flat meets the exact entry standard required by World Athletics for the World Championships. The competition happens to be taking place in Tokyo this September, on home soil. I was determined to run under 10 seconds heading into the final. I'm happy to have set a high school record, Shimizu said after his record-breaking performance. I'd like to get a taste of it if I can make it. The qualifying heats are scheduled for September 13th, followed by semifinals and the final on September 14th at National Stadium. The Japanese Federation hasn't published its selection criteria, but with only 2 Japanese sprinters currently qualified for the 100 meters, and Brown struggling with his 10th.31 season best, Shimizu could potentially earn a spot. His inclusion in the 4x100 relay team seems unlikely, however. The Japanese quartet is extremely stable and works extensively on baton changes. There would hardly be time for Shimizu to adapt to their established system. Shimizu's race analysis reveals the sophistication behind his breakthrough, his signature second acceleration. The ability to find another gear mid-race had clicked perfectly in Hiroshima after failing to execute properly in the preliminaries. This technical mastery at just 16 years old suggests enormous potential for further improvement. His body is still developing, yet he's already demonstrating race management skills that typically take years to develop. Speaking to NHK after his record-breaking run, Shimizu revealed the scope of his ambitions. He said, "From now on, I will have to live up to the 10-second time, but my goal in high school is to break the 9-second barrier, so I want to achieve that and become a 9-second sprinter." Breaking the 9-second barrier would put Shimizu in the most elite company in sprinting history. Only a handful of athletes have ever achieved sub 9.90 times. But after witnessing his progression from 10.37 to 10.00 in just over a year, such goals no longer seem fantastical. The athletics community responded with a mixture of awe and disbelief. "Absolutely unbelievable," wrote one fan. Some expressed concern about the physical demands on such a young athlete. "Yeah, injuries are guaranteed if you getting 16-year-old damn near running 9.9, worried one fan. The boy born in 2009 has just announced himself to the world in the most spectacular fashion possible. Sorato Shimizu's journey has only just begun, but his destination already seems destined for greatness.
Can Wilson hold on? It is going to be Quincy Wilson!
No one expected the 17-year-old in lane 4 to make history, but in under 45 seconds, he didn't just win, he changed everything. Quincy Wilson's name went from quiet whispers to global shock in a single race. At 17 years old, Quincy Wilson clocked an astonishing 44.10 seconds in the 400 meters. That time shattered his own under 18 world best of 44.20 seconds, set just weeks earlier at the U.S. Olympic trials. The Memphis crowd was left in shock. He wasn't just competing against the pros, he was outrunning them. Sprinters who had years of training and Olympic appearances under their belts found themselves trailing behind a teenager still in high school.
Digging for the line. The 17-year-old Quincy Wilson holds Denman off, and Quincy Wilson says, "Oh!"
This wasn't a fluke or a lucky break. This was a calculated statement. Wilson's performance didn't just break records, it disrupted expectations. With his 44.10, he now holds the fastest time ever by an under-18 athlete in the world. But it doesn't stop there. That time also places him second on the all-time under-20 list, just behind the legendary Steve Lewis, who ran 43.87 seconds at the 1988 Olympics in Seoul. To understand the gravity of that comparison, consider this. Steve Lewis went on to become an Olympic champion, and his performance has stood the test of time for nearly 4 decades. Wilson is now on that same trajectory, and he's not even legally an adult yet. His name sits in the record books next to legends, and he's only getting started. And here's where things get even more interesting. Unlike many prodigies who emerge with flashy social media profiles and endless interviews, Quincy has taken a different route. He's stayed under the radar, quietly putting in work. No drama, no distractions, just progress. That element of mystery, of quiet dominance, has left fans and analysts alike wondering just how much more he's holding back.